Are there specific character traits that will help you to live an extraordinary life? Are there specific traits of your character that will help you to close the gap between where you are right now and where it is you want to go? And what does this whole craze and movement around fulfillment really mean? What does it really mean to live a fulfilled life? Well, wait no longer for that answer, because we are speaking to our first second time guest to the Be Better broadcast. His name is Doruk Cansev. And you might remember Doruk because last time we spoke, we talked about balance and meaning. And now we're going to take this conversation a whole lot deeper. You guys loved him. You wanted more. We're going to be talking about how you can build character and truly live a fulfilled life, as well as the step-by-step to get there. But you know the deal. Before we bring up Doruk and have this conversation, if you find value from this show, the only fee for the show is to share it with one person who could use it the most. Share it with one person who could also take away a bit-sized piece of value or a new perspective or a new strategy or something that will just brighten their day. The show has grown so much because of you, because of your efforts. And for that, I appreciate you so much. You're part of the team, and I rely on you in order to get this show in front of more people. But again, only if you take away value from it. So without further ado, let's talk to our guest expert on fulfillment and character, Mr. Doruk Cansev. And for those who didn't catch our first episode together, Doruk is an author, brand manager, and a life strategist. He helps people to live meaningful and balanced lives, one book and one coaching session at a time. And Doruk, I just want to congratulate you for launching your third book, which is The Mentor Playbook. Lessons from movie mentors about 24 character traits. So congratulations and welcome back to the show, my friend.
Thanks a lot, Brandon. It's so good to be here today. And I appreciate that you mentioned I'm the first guest that happens to have his second time. And I'm sure you will have many more guests that will be back. So
I'm sure, but you're the first, brother. You're the first. And we talked about a balanced life last time, right? And we talked for a while about a balanced life. And in my book, I actually talked about how balance doesn't exist in terms of the 5 key areas of life. So you and I, we contradict each other a bit, which I love because I love the conversation that it brings. So if you could bring us back again, because they can check out the first episode, but if you could bring us back, what does it mean to live a balanced life? And do you believe that balance truly exists?
I'm so glad that you started with that because when I say balance, I don't mean an ultimate center where everyone needs to fit in. I don't believe like we have a ultimate sweet spot. I think we have conflicting and complementary forces in our lives, whether it's work-life balance, whether it's our personalities. So we all need to find where we belong between those extremes. And this is why this dynamic that you mentioned with our own conflicting but also complementary positions in this discussion also is very important, because truth itself, it's subjective, it's relative, and we all need to find our own truths. And what I try to do with my first book is to help people find their own truths, find their own sweet spots. Like, not everybody needs to be perfectly confident, or not everybody needs to be perfectly flexible. Sometimes we get more out of our own signature sides. So this could be some person might have more to gain from humility than confidence because it's true to who they are. And some other ones might have more to benefit from focus than flexibility, or vice versa. What really matters is whether you can find your own truth and whether you can find your own center.
Yeah, absolutely. It comes down to that self-discovery. And when it comes to finding where one belongs, how does what you talk about with character relate to how one person can find where they truly belong?
Sure. In this book, I use this personality framework called the Big Five, as some of your listeners might remember. And there are 5 traits that make us who we are in that framework, which are openness to change, conscientiousness, agreeableness, extraversion, and neuroticism. So I also added a few of my own because I just wanted to tap into other subjects. But overall, if you can look at your life through different states and lenses, you can use my own framework, which you can find on my website. You can really come up with your own answers, but you first need to ask yourself the right questions. And in this regard, maybe a book, maybe a podcast, maybe a professional like a therapist or a coach might help you. But sometimes we can also find our own questions, and this is what really matters, I would say.
Yeah, I completely agree. I mean, asking yourself the right questions gets you different answers. I mean, on my own journey, I remember, man, before I was 21, and listen, man, I'm still discovering every single day of my life. I was actually out to dinner with my dad the other night, and he always likes to reminisce, which I appreciate because he's a wise man, right? Business owner, he's successful in his own right. And he's closing in on 60 years old. So he's still young relatively, right? And he was talking about how he never really fully grew into himself until he was around 30 years old. And he looked at me and he's like, Brandon, he's like, at 27, he's like, you're still growing. He's like, you're still going to learn more about yourself. There's things you care about now that in a couple of years you won't care about anymore. He's like, for me, it was the worry of what other people think about you. And I was like, well, yeah, I kind of do have that worry sometimes, right? We want to show ourselves in a specific light, especially as a business and a brand. And he's like, you're going to notice that you continue to change and evolve. And for me, I look back at when I was 21 and I was in a very different headspace in general. And I had to learn who I was, at least up until this point, through the act of making mistakes and doing things. But let me tell you, like what you just said, I made the most growth in my life once I had my mentor come into my life and he took me under his wing. And being around different people and having a coach in a sense, even though he never identified as my coach, he was my leader in the company we worked with. He took me under his wing, and by being around him, I saw the questions he asked himself. I was introduced to new ideas and new philosophies. So I completely agree with what you said about the benefits of finding someone who can help you guide yourself through this process. And I specifically say guide yourself through the process because it is very much a process of self-discovery. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, like you can have the best coaches out there. I'm not talking about life coaching particularly. Like you can have a sports coach, a performance coach, and he can teach you how to shoot or how to run or how to swim. But it is at the end of the day you who needs to go on that field and shoot the damn ball in the hoop or something. So yeah, absolutely. We all need to own our choices and own our lives. But sometimes, yes, a mentor or a coach or someone who can support or push or challenge us can help. And this is why I looked at all these movie mentors in my second book because they have been also a huge inspiration for me. I wasn't that much lucky like you. Like I didn't have that kind of a life-changing person in my life, maybe, or maybe I'm just doing some people in my life some injustice here. But those mentors in the movies or books, they have always been the ones who guided me and challenged me and inspired me. So this is why I dedicated this one to them.
Yeah, I love that. And you're on your third book now, and I commend you because you have a great position with a great company, right? That takes a lot of your time. Yet you still you're building your business, you're building your brand, you're writing books, you're being an author. A lot of people out there are like, I just don't have time to even go to the gym, right? Where I'm going to guess that fitness is a part of your life, but you're also building a business while also working in a high level position. So you're doing a lot of things, but you're not just doing. From the sounds of everything you're talking about, you are being and living your example, which is just as important, especially as someone who's getting this message out to the world. How did you find where you belonged, and what led you down this path to now authoring 3 books on balance, on meaning, and now on building your character? All very deep topics, especially when you start talking about fulfillment. How did you find yourself on this road?
That's a very deep and good question, and I really appreciate you asking it. Like when I call myself a life strategist, I define strategy as knowing where to play and how to play there. So choosing, we all have like limited resources. That's a given, like time, energy, money, attention, everything is limited and scarce. So the same excuses could go for anyone. But it is our choices that we make with those limited resources that define our lives and define who we are. And in that sense, I'm trying my best to find the best priorities that can give me the most return on investment, if you know what I mean. Like in marketing we have ROI,
Hmm.
and you can apply the same principle to all your choices or actions or habits in life. Like what gives you the most ROI? And that answer comes from your signature strengths. For me, I came into touch with my own strengths, which were creativity, wisdom, and love of learning. At some point in my life, I actually lost connection to those strengths. But throughout my personal growth journey, I rediscovered them. And now my purpose actually comes from these strengths. And I define my purpose as finding or creating new ways to help people live up to their full potential in life. And this finding part relates well with my love of learning. And this creating part, of course, plays well with my creativity. And this wisdom offers people some ways to change their perspectives or find ways to live up to their full potentials in life. And this is how I can manage all my decisions. Like any day, you get mm, hundreds, if not thousands of choices, like whether to wake up or whether to snooze, like whether to go to work early or spend some more time with family, or whether to work out or write a book or just go out with friends. And this is also part of our life's balance. And I try to find my balance and I try to find my leverage in spotting my own strengths, linking that to my purpose, and making intentional strategical choices every day that helps me get there.
Wow. You just said a lot there, man. And I love, let's unpack that. So each of us has unique strengths, things that we have always been great at, things that we've learned to be great at, but regardless of how it got there, we have something about us that is unique, that is special, that is an innate strength. Maybe it's something we did work on, maybe it's something natural. And then you said that your definition of purpose for you is finding new ways to creatively reach and help other people using your strengths of creativity and wisdom and loving to learn. And it's very clear on how you deliver products and services to the world with that framework in mind. I mean, your books, your programs, which we'll talk about. Now, for those listening, everyone listening, ask yourself right now, what is it about me that is a strength? What is it about me that is unique? And if you're saying to yourself, because I used to say, well, I don't really know what's a strength, right? Ask a friend or a family member, what is it about me that you notice to be a strength? Something that I've always been great at. Someone that you trust, obviously, someone who's going to give you a constructive answer. But the sooner you identify your strengths, the sooner you can identify and begin to open the door to your purpose. Do you believe that everybody's purpose is defined as finding ways to help people? Do you believe that purpose is, in essence, doing good for other people?
I do, because in my own personal coaching, I get people to a place where they are balanced, where they feel close to their ideal selves, where they have completed their like self improvement journey per se. But then comes a leap where they need to go beyond themselves, like this personal growth industry, self improvement, self help. It's a bit more self focused, and maybe it's a Western thing. I'm not sure. Maybe in the Eastern culture, community sometimes is more emphasized. But I think some people are already discovering the importance of community as well. And do you know the happiest country in the world?
Who is it?
Like it's not Switzerland, it's not Sweden or
Is
Finland,
it the
or
United States?
no, it's not Turkey, I could
Probably
say.
far from that.
It's Bhutan. It's a Far East country, a small and an underdeveloped country at that. But
Bhutan.
yeah,
Okay. I wonder how
uh,
they gauge that. Do you know how they gauge that?
I really haven't checked it myself. It's one of those trivia things you see in YouTube
Do they
videos.
just
But
walk person to person and say, "Are you happy? Are you happy? Are you happy?"
I know that they have a Ministry of Happiness or something, and I know some companies are now having like chief happiness officers. So I'm sure there are scientific ways to gauge that. But I know for a fact that in that country, the community is so prominent, and the loving ties you have with others, and this being in service to them,
Mm.
being in service to something greater than yourself is what makes the difference. Like you can be a fully improved and developed person, but what matters in the end is you'll remember this from our previous talk. What are you going to do with that? Like there is a Zen story where the students come to a master and ask, "Master, what is enlightenment?" And he answers, "What are you going to do with it?" Like that's the essence of enlightenment. What are you going to do with your self-help journey? What are you going to do when you are better, or when in reference to your own podcast when so this is why I believe, yeah, purpose comes from service to others. But finding your own purpose, not everyone needs to help other people. It's not always about helping people. Maybe it's about helping an animal, or maybe helping the world, environment, or you need to find your own cause. You need to find your own struggle and what frustrates you, what gets your blood boiling or something like that. And you need to fight that. You need to fight for that cause with all you got, which are your strengths. So this is the art of finding your purpose and linking it to your strengths.
Mm. I think it's important that you tried many different things in order to find that sweet spot, like you said, that you can really put yourself into and spend the most time there. Like when I started delivering presentations to sales teams, it sounds like something that most people would be like either one of two things. The first thing would be, oh, I don't want to give a presentation to anybody, right? Because public speaking and that kind of thing. And then the second group is like, well, I have no inner desire to give a presentation to a sales team, but I'm up there doing it and I'm feeling on top of the world, not just because I'm the guy at the front of the room. Yeah, I'm sure there's some ego there. Well, let's face it, there's definitely some ego there, but it's mostly I have the platform and the opportunity to share my own experiences and pieces of advice that can help these individuals sell more, make more money, but not just do those two things, but live a better life as a result. And me having that platform, knowing that what I'm doing is serving a higher purpose, as soon as I started doing that when I was 21, I was like, this is what I want to do more of. And I sought more of it. I went to my leader, who was my mentor at the time, and I said, do you care if I do all of the sales training from now on? And he's like, sure. He's like, I'm good at it. He's like, but I don't really care to do it. He's like, but if you want to do it, if you find satisfaction from that, then please do. And within 4 years, I became the trainer for all of the state of upstate New York for Verizon Wireless. And I got there not because I was just good at it, but because I found my purpose in it. I found something I was great at. I identified my strengths. I love what you're talking about here with community as well. And it makes sense if Bhutan is the happiest country, however they gauge that community would be one of the things. I mean, if you look at the community of centenarians, which is people who've lived over 100 years old, there's what's the place? It's in Japan. I forget the name.
Okinawa.
Is it Okinawa?
I think so.
Okay. Well, regardless, there's an island in Japan where the community has the most centenarians out of anywhere in the world, and they did a study on this, and this is where the concept of Ikigai came from, which Ikigai is purpose, right? And these individuals had a purpose. They lived the purpose. They moved their body every single day. So they always constantly moved and exercised. It was important to them. But what you said, they had community. They made a point to talk to people, to have conversations, to help people, to be around other human beings that they felt a kinship with. So, those listening, who are those people that you could spend your time around in order to get that same sense of community? Maybe people who share a similar purpose, who share similar strengths. You can find community there. Now, with your newest book, though, you talk all about character. Okay. And we're talking about community, but character really comes down to the individual. I'm guessing, I guess there could be characteristics of a community as well. What is the importance of character, and why was this the topic in which you wrote your newest book about?
I will come to this question, but I just wanted to add one more thing because you
Please.
mentioned Ikigai and it's very relevant to what I do, especially with purpose work. Ikigai, one of the elements of Ikigai is what the world needs. And it's not what you need. Like, it's not what you need for your improvement. It's what the world needs. And this is the community and service part comes into play. And in my own work, I witnessed many people who found more fulfilling work and overall activities when they get in touch with this what the world needs part. So this is definitely spot on when you referenced Ikigai. Coming back to character, character strengths are defined as strengths that make us who we are. And they are, in a sense, inevitable. Like, sometimes we might lose connection to them, but usually they are so natural to us that we come into touch with them somewhere in our lives back. Like, maybe you were in touch with them from your childhood on, but in your case, maybe you didn't know about this side of you that liked to be on stage and who is also good at it. And you needed something to initiate that. And it was, in a sense, inevitable that you had this in you and you just needed an outlet, like this podcast itself. Maybe you were from your childhood on probably very good with people. You had probably very sociable, uh, but I'm guessing here. Please let me know.
It's really funny you say that, and I'm just going to jump in because I was an introvert, and I still am more an introvert than an extrovert. I become extroverted when I need to. I've always loved people, but one thing I've always loved very much is learning, like what you said. I've always loved asking people questions. I've always been the guy who just, if you're with me, I'm going to ask you questions about everything because I really want to know. And I think that that's a big proponent of what's led to this because all I do is ask questions.
Yeah, yeah. And I wouldn't use like sociable as an opposite of like introverts because I'm an introvert myself. And I also enjoy deep conversations like this in smaller groups. And in your case, maybe that's the type of socialization that you enjoy. The asking question part, it's also a hallmark of introverts because they are usually very observant, and this gives you also so much power, both in sales and coaching and everything in podcasting. And this maybe I misjudged that. Like, I mentioned sociability as your strength, but maybe it's curiosity, maybe it's asking questions and bringing the best out of people. And maybe podcast is giving you that outlet, or your other works as well and services. So if everyone who is listening to this podcast can think, just intentionally take some time and try to come up with your own strengths, whether it's a skill, whether it's a type of activity, or whether it's a character strength. And you can use online tests. There is a free one on viasurvey.org, which is an official 24 character strengths website that I
It's
also
called
use.
wearesurvey.org.
VIA survey.org.
Oh,
I
via.
think it's the name of the institute. But they can just type, I think, 24 character strengths, and this will be the first website that comes up anyway, because they use the model that was developed by the positive psychologists Seligman and Peterson. And this is also the work that I based my third book on, this 24 character strengths model. They are not about our skills, they are more about character, as you mentioned. And these include creativity, bravery, perseverance, but also more spiritual stuff like appreciation of beauty. That's a strength in itself, or hope. Whatever makes you who you are in character could be your own strength. And if you can find them, and if you can bring them to your life, if you can manifest those strengths with your work or activities or your relationships, they will help you live a fulfilled life. And maybe it's too much of an assumption, but I would assume that if unless you can find them, I would say it's really hard for you to live a fulfilled life, because something will be always missing. These strengths will be calling you, and sometimes in the business of a life we lose connection to them. Like, we have jobs, we have families, relationships, and in that chaos sometimes we forget who we are. And this is why many people go on this self-help journey, and I think it's a very good way to start.
Absolutely. These character traits, do you believe that we are born with these specific character traits from genetics or epigenetics? Do you believe that there's something that we learn throughout our life? Both? What are your thoughts on that?
I'm not a scientist, so it's really hard to speculate on. But from what I read about this research and everything, I saw that, yeah, there is a genetic factor at play there. There is a hereditary tendency, but also nurture and your life experiences definitely can bring out more strengths that you have. Like, uh, in 5 years, your survey results might change,
Mm,
and it's not showing an inaccuracy or invalidity. It just shows that we are human, and as you said at the beginning of this podcast, we are very dynamic, we are ever changing, as your father also said. We are like water flowing, and you can't, bathe in the same river twice. So yeah, there are some tendencies that come from our genetics, definitely, but it doesn't mean that you can't change, and it's who you are for your whole life. But I believe if you can find for now, like, what is your own strength, and if you can build on that, it will build, it will give you more leverage.
yeah, I'm sure it can. I mean, we've got these character traits, we've got these strengths that we're using to connect with our purpose. We've got all these individual pieces. When someone is working with you, Daruk, how do you help people tie together all of these individual pieces? What does it look like when someone works with you, and how do you help them to tie all these together?
Sure. By the way, I just wanted to add one more thing to our
Please.
discussion. Sorry, I'm always making a mess of this flow, but you mentioned, like, you stepped up to take over this training agenda in your previous company or role. And this shows that, like, you found what mattered to you, you found your strength or passion in that training part, and you stepped up and you took initiative, and you came such a long way ever since then. And this shows that if you can find your strengths or your passions, they can go a long way. And in my work, I start with people's priorities in life, like what they want to achieve with this program or coaching. And this shows a lot of desire, a lot of ambition. But then I tap into character strengths using my book and this online survey and other resources. And we look at how they can use more of their strengths when they are reaching to their goals or priorities in life. And then I go to my first book, which was Balanced, and I look at people's shadows. Because have you ever heard the saying that goes like, you can't go fishing if your house is on fire?
Mm, I like that.
I want to help people build a strong foundation, and this is why I also look at being balanced managing their shadows, managing their self-sabotaging patterns or beliefs. And once we really clear the house up and the fire is put out, then we can look at their ideal selves, like who they want to become. And this is only the part of self-improvement. Once we build this strong foundation and put up the second or third floor, then comes this purpose part. So in the last weeks, I help people find their own purpose, find their own Ikigai, and link them to their character strengths while managing their shadows and living a balanced life. So overall, I have a very strong framework as I come from strategical planning in marketing. And I use the same principles that we use for brands to help people develop a strategy for their lives. And all brands have a purpose, at least all strong brands. It could be help bringing smiles to people. It could be like fighting dirtiness, the brand maybe. So if you can find that purpose for your life, and if you can link it to your strengths while managing your shadows, I believe, yeah, everyone can live a balanced and purposeful life.
You said that, you don't go fishing if your house is on fire. The shadows, you help somebody to first put out those fires that we talked about. And now you say, while you work to become the person you want to become, you're constantly managing those shadows. So are the shadows always there? Like, are you constantly in a sense extinguishing the fire as it appears? Like, what does that look like?
There is a Zen story, like how do you clean a muddled water? You let it sit. Like when you let it sit in a cup of glass, the dirt goes to the bottom and the water clears up in time. So yeah, there is a time factor there, and in time, the fires that looked so scary start like being not so scary. And I use techniques from psychology. I use techniques that I have developed myself to help people manage their shadows. And once they look their shadows in the eyes, and once they show this courage, they often see that the monster has no teeth and the shadows are not so scary. And we all have shadows, and we can learn to live with those shadows. And once you do this work, you can really just go on living your life, and you will every once in a while face this shadow. Like you will have every once in a while an anxious thought or an obsessive tendency, or maybe you will feel angry, you will fear, maybe insecure. But when you have the tools and techniques and the fundamentals within yourself that can help you manage them, they will not be so scary. So maybe it will be like a candle in your table, not like a house on fire.
I love that analogy. Someone else just wrote that they love that analogy too. It's a great one. I like how the fire becomes a candle that you simply watch, right? And you
Yeah,
don't leave the house with the candle burning, right? You always extinguish the candle before you leave. Otherwise, that's how the fire happens. I love it.
and every candle will have a shadow as well. Like it will maybe at some point, it's not about extinguishing fires, but bringing it to a manageable level, whether it's a candle or a fireplace. Like fire itself is sometimes warm and nurturing. Like sometimes we benefit from our shadows. Like I have obsessive tendencies, I have perfectionist tendencies, and I learned to manage them. Like this light, this candle still projects a shadow, but I learned to manage it, and now I can control that fire. And that's what really matters for me. Not that I become someone who isn't perfectionist at all, but I'm a perfectionist who can manage it. And I think this is also one of my strengths. So your imbalances can become your strengths. And it's really a unique and dynamic play that you need to figure out for yourself, and it's also so exciting. And this is why I love coaching. Every person is unique. Every person presents another opportunity to create something and out of their lives, and I really love helping them do their best.
I can tell. Yeah, I can tell you love talking about these things and you love helping people. First of all, the links to grab Daruk's new book, The Mentor Playbook: Lessons from Movie Mentors About 24 Character Traits, is in the description. That's a great place to start, right? So you can get a good read on yourself. You can go inside and really see who you are as well as who you want to be, so you can begin making progress towards that and living your purpose. Now, I know you have a program coming up also, the 7-week growth strategy program. Who is this program for? And can people expect to go through this framework while they're in that program with you?
I would say it's for everyone, and it's not good marketing strategy, I know, but it is really for everyone. Like, I have helped executives become better leaders, but I have helped people who worked in like delivery business, like they were delivering food to other people, and I have helped those people find meaning in what they do, and work for improvement. And this is why I believe we all have shadows, we all have our own strengths, and we need to all link them to our purpose. And this framework really is very strongly structured, I would say, coming from a brand marketing and strategy background. And just imagine that someone helps you manage your life like some of the biggest brands in the world are managed. And this gives you so much structure, this gives you so much direction, that just in 7 weeks, everything can fall into place. And where you see chaos, you see meaning, and you see direction, and you see balance. And I would say this is what my program is all about. And I would love to help more people change their lives for the better.
I love that. Where is the best place that people can reach out to you so that they can join this program? And when does it begin?
It's, by the way, an ongoing program. Like, I do individual work as well. I haven't yet started group work, but depending on people's wants, I might start. They can just send me an email. Maybe they can find it in your notes, or they can find my website or Twitter or Instagram accounts, which all come from my name. So just check up my name and in your own platforms, and you will find me. And just give me a hi, and I will love to take it from there with you.
Incredible. I will have all those links in the description for people to check out your Instagram, your website, and anywhere else they hang out that makes it most convenient for them to reach you. Guys, if you want to dig into your purpose, if you want to dig into your own meaning of your life, if you want even just someone to help guide you by the hand and help you manage your life, like Doruk just said, similar to how the most successful brands manage their business, go reach out to Doruk. Links are in the description. Doruk, what would you say at this point in your life? And this is my final question for you. What would you say is the meaning of your life at this point in your life?
I already know my purpose, at least for now, but the meaning in it, and meaning in my own struggle, is to find and create the best ways that I manifest that purpose into life. And not just like you, I am also every day trying to be better, and every day trying to come up with new ways to do that, whether it's content production, whether it's writing, whether it's coaching, or creating new frameworks. So the meaning I have is to manage my own shadows while doing that, and tap into my own strengths, and keep doing it, because it's all about consistency at the end, as you very well know. And my challenge right now is to reach more people, and make this thing take up more of my time, because with all other struggles that we have, it can be hard to put the amount of time and energy that you want to put there. So right now I'm trying to get better at finding people, connecting with them, and spreading the word of what I have found out or created. So this, I would say, is the meaning of my life right now.
Wow, I love that answer. Thank you for sharing that. I know you're going to continue to reach more people. And guys, reach out to Doruk and just have a conversation and see if this program will make sense for what you're looking to do in your life. Doruk, it was a pleasure having you back on the show as the second-time guest. And I couldn't think of anyone better, my friend, to fill that spot. So thank you very much for your time and for your wisdom.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here, Brandon, and a pleasure. And I'm looking forward to the third one already.
Yes, when your fourth book is out or when you have a program or something, we'll have you back on, my friend.
Yeah.
Thank you, Doruk.
Thank you. Bye.
When it comes to your meaning of life, when it comes to how your strengths fit into your purpose, and when it comes to your own character traits, as well as working with your shadows, we all need that guiding hand or a guiding voice or a different perspective to help us walk through that journey, to help us close the gap between where we are and where we want to be. And Doruk is one of the more insightful people that I've had on the show, who goes deep into these very ethereal subjects that a lot of people have a hard time describing, but it comes very naturally to Doruk. And I believe that's because of his strengths, like he laid out here on the show. So again, links are in the description to connect and have a conversation with Doruk to see if his program makes sense for you. If you want to start with his book, again, his newest book, The Mentor Playbook, Lessons from Movie Mentors about 24 Character Traits, link to grab that is in the description. And it's an incredible book. Go check it out. Again, if you found any value from this show, simply share it with one person. That's how we've been able to get the word out to more people. And I'm grateful to you for sharing the show. And until we talk again next time, continue to be better.